we are here with the third installment in our Overcoming Resistance in Trading series. I'm Charlie Bathgate, managing partner of Sang Lucci and Wall Street Jesus, and I'm joined by none other than Sang Lucci himself. Say hello, everybody, Lucci.
How's everybody doing?
And we are here to continue the momentum of what we started last week. I did two really good interviews with two traders that are within our inner circle. The first one was with Ron Ranchero Friedman, and he's a guest educator for the Sang Lucci Master Course. A lot of you in the Steam Room know him. He really laid out how he's able to just kind of continually move through the things that hold him back, or the things that hold a lot of people back mentally, through the way that he views things. I won't go too far into that, but if you want to check that out, go to our YouTube channel, go to videos, most recent videos, you'll see his up there. And then on Thursday, we had an interview with Chris Cady, who is a 30-year veteran of the markets and also a total freak of nature when it comes to meditation and Buddhist philosophy. He spent more than 14 months in silent meditation retreats. He has gone very deep into some existential and psychological concepts that he is really able to apply to trading. That was a very cool interview. He is also going to be joining us as a guest educator for the Sang Lucci Master Course this time around. So very excited to have him in there. You guys can also check out the recording of that. And we're continuing on here today, diving into some psychological stuff, which obviously we love to talk about here. And if you haven't joined us for the last two, I mean, what we're talking about here is the concept of resistance. Resistance being any force that originates from within our own minds that stops us from doing what we want to do and what we need to do. So this often looks like procrastination. It looks like a fear of taking a loss because you're hung up on a certain concept of your own identity. I think you guys, if you all sit back and think about the reasons that you haven't accomplished something that you want to accomplish, or something that's been inhibiting you in your behavior, probably a lot of things that'll come up. That's resistance. That's what we're here to talk about. So we'll get right into it. We will talk more about the Master Course starting on December 9th. Towards the end of the webinar, but for right now, we'll get right into it with Lucci. So, Lucci, I know you saw the last two that we did with Ranch and with Chris, and I think it's a good place to start, just to talk a little bit about times when you look back in your trading career, not necessarily where you're at right now, but times when you were kind of coming up and learning a lot, forces of resistance that you encountered, and what that looked like for you, and kind of what the consequences were like for you when you ran into that and you couldn't deal with it in the way you wanted to.
Yeah, it's always weird because you're answering these questions with the knowledge that you have now. You know what I'm saying? Right. And then you're answering them as if you were that person when you were going through them. And then oftentimes too, you can't even believe of the dumb shit that used to hold you back, especially when when you come out on the other side, so to speak, right? When you stay the course and try to break that resistance, or maybe you try to break it in all different kinds of ways, and it breaks you, and the resistance ends up crushing you. But you keep going, and you just change and you develop into this new person, And I think Chris Cody, alluded to that quite a bit, and so did Ranchero. So it's always weird answering this question from where you are in life now, right, and then talking about where you were like 10 years ago. So for example, like my resistance that I hit when I first started trading, like 6 months or 7 months into the game, I knew how to make money. 6 months, 7 months into the game. I think it was even earlier than that. I kind of knew.
That's after you had learned tape?
Yeah, exactly. It was during the whole time, and spending all the time looking after hours and looking at the tape of all the master traders that were in there. And I would look at every one of their trades and I'd be like, okay, what did they see when they got in this? What did they see when they got out? And through doing all that, the light bulbs were going off. Like, I knew how to make a good trade. And then even then, in my first year of trading, like I never knew how to manage the losing side of it. And in reality, this is something that came back. This is a resistance that came back many times in my trading career, right? So it came back out after you think it's something that you solved, and it comes back out again, and it manifests itself in another way. And I think where I'm trying to go is that it was always my own desire for more, or for something that trumped I guess the logic, or even the risk management, or the, you know, whatever the rational course of action was at the time. It always trumped the rational course of action. It was the desires. It was my want of more. It was my want of now, like, you know, everything right now. You know, I think it was always that, some manifestation of that created the resistances that I've had to try to break through. Right. And the shitty part is that when you're trying to attack resistance through wants and desire, the resistance is always going to win. It's going to win. You know, you might get a little something, and that'll keep you in the game. That'll keep you wanting more. It'll keep you right there, right up against that resistance. And then eventually the wants and desires, they're going to get to a place where it's too much for you to handle mentally, and the resistance is going to crush you. So I can pick maybe 3 points in my career where that has happened. And the resistance has crushed me. It's crushed me every time. Crushed me every time.
And you're saying that, like, that's something that existed that trumped rationality, that trumped logic. That's something that was coming, that you were imposing onto it, like that was coming external, like
100%. So yeah. So first example, for the first year that I was trading, it was the need to provide for, you know, this new family that I had. It was the need to help my father, who, you know, recently, you know, couldn't get a job, and was kind of in a situation where he was just like, I'm done with all this shit. You know, so and then it was my own ego, that wanted to, you know, finally be on my own, you know, and not have to live at my friend's place for, you know, because he was allowing me to stay there, kind of thing, you know. And it was all of those things, you know, kind of put together, that kind of created a world where every day that I came in, I had to make a certain amount of money. And if I didn't, my self-worth would go down and down and down and down. And then the next day I'd try to do the same thing, you know, and then sooner or later, it all kind of compounds into a situation where there's way too much expectation being put on every decision that you're making. Yeah. And then there's no way every human being, you know how they say in the movies where, you know, they gotta go put somebody through the torture chamber, and at some point everyone breaks, right? He's a strong man, but everybody has their breaking point. Like,
everybody has their breaking point.
Yeah, they always say that shit, like, this is what it is with trading. And I had, you know, and that was my first breaking point. It was like, I knew how to make money, so I could make like 20 grand in a month. You know, I you know, within like a year and a half of trading, like I could do that, which even now I look back on it, it's you know, it's kind of crazy. But then again, depending on how you know, and how much risk you take and how much money you have, and, you know, all that kind of stuff, it's just relative. I guess I would more say percentage on account or whatever. But like, I could make good money, but I never figured out how to keep it, because it was never enough, right? So if you're always compounding your needs, you know, and let's say for 6 months you don't make any money, then the next month, the 7th month that you make money, like, you're going to want to make all that 6 months back, and then, you know, make up for lost time. You're going to want to do all that stuff. And that's going to add the expectation on anything that you make. So even if you do make money, it ain't enough. And then when it's not enough, it creates more want and more desire, and it creates more pressure that you're putting up on that resistance, and more expectation, and eventually that shit's going to ruin you. It's going to ruin you.
And so did you, like, in the way that you adjusted to that, was it like adjusting your own goals and finding ways to reduce that external pressure on yourself, or did you just, yeah, how did you change, I guess?
Yeah, combination of things. I mean, that's why I created Sang Lucci, believe it or not. Like, that was the reason why I created Sang Lucci. I created Sang Lucci as a way to create a small income stream for myself, so that I could come to the market and I could relieve myself of the need for everyday dollars. I mean, a lot of traders are in that situation right now where, you know, you need to make money because you got to pay rent, you got to pay this, you got to pay that. You know, so that was step one. Step one was creating that kind of revenue stream. It was doing other things, right? So I was selling tickets at the time. I was still in that game. I was still trying to do other things. And then number two was always the realization that, you know, the losses, not that the losses don't matter, but it was the realization that don't focus on the money. It was always the realization that the more expectation you put on the dollars, the more you're going to shoot yourself in the foot, because it's a mental thing where it's not necessarily about the dollars. It's about what happens after you introduce a dollar figure to what you're doing, and you introduce an expectation to what you're doing. So all of my, you know, good years in P&L or whatever have ironically been where I've pushed up on that resistance enough and haven't been able to break through to the point where it crushed me. I had the realization, and then I broke through then I broke through the resistance.
Right.
If that makes sense.
And then I think in terms of you, I mean, knowing you, having worked with you for as long as we worked together, and I mean, you have always just had that like self-belief that you blindly were like, I don't give, like, I know that I can do this. Especially I think when maybe it was like you had proven to yourself, you had learned, you're like, I know I can do this. I can make winning trades. It's me getting my own way. So you were just like doggedly persistent in terms of each time you blew up or whatever kind of resistance beat you down.
100%.
I'm going forward. Yeah.
100%. That unfortunately can't be taught. It can't be taught. It has to be manifested from your own energy, you know, from your own whatever it is that you're going through. So unfortunately, like, you know, nobody can be taught that kind of thing. You have to find what it is for you that gets you to wake up after you get smoked out and after you get beaten down, and, you know, and what makes you want to get up. Like for me, I go through deep periods of like depression. That's what I go through. So that's another example of the resistance caving in on you. It literally just caves in on you, and then it just sits there. It's like just this weight. It's like a giant weighted blanket or whatever. Like you can't you know, you can't do anything with it, but it's self-imposed. Like that resistance, and then the weight that sits there after, you know, after the destruction, or, you know, maybe you blow out an account, or, you know, you lose this, you lose that, or whatever. The weight that sits there, that shit is all self-imposed. And the realization that it is self-imposed is the same time where you're like, all right, throw this shit off and let's fucking go. You know what I mean? So that's kind of how I go through it.
And that's something that's been interesting for me, talking to you now, talking to Chris, talking to Ranch. Like everybody has different ways to move through their own blockages and their own obstacles, right? But in terms of, I mean, one of the things that we were talking about in my interview with Ranch was that, like, if you can frame your perspective, you have to be able to sit with uncomfortable emotions, and you have to be able to sit and really, and there's a meditation teacher who talks about this concept called deconstructing the chord. Like this is what musicians do, right? They deconstruct the chords. You have one note, and they deconstruct the various components of that, right? And there's a concept in meditation where they talk about that, where you deconstruct the emotions that you're experiencing, and why are you experiencing them, and how did you get to this point, right? And I think a ton of people in trading or in other aspects of their life get to where you're at, where the points that we were talking about, where they get beaten down by circumstances, many of which are self-imposed, and they feel like shit, but then they want to run from it because it's a shitty feeling and nobody wants to feel that, and so they avoid that, right? And that is resistance. And I think that's a lot of what we're talking about. And for you, you're saying that you were able to just power through that in part because you stepped back and said, I did this to myself. I accept responsibility for this.
Yeah, I mean, I was able to do it, but it was in infancy stages. You know what I'm saying? Like what you're talking about now are only realizations that I've come to recently. The ability to track back an emotion to where it started, to what was the cause of it, what was the root of it. You know, I'm only able to do that now. So my advancement now, as far as the ability to break through resistance, is far beyond what it was, you know, year 1, year 2, even year 6. You know, what I'm able to do now, and I'm sure we'll get to this eventually, what I'm able to do now, I've never done it before, and I can't even, the way that it looks in my P&L, like anybody who looks at it, you'll be like, what the fuck is going on here? What this you know, this is not indicative of you 100, you know, at all. Like, who are you? This is not you. This is not the same person who was trading this account, you know, 6 years ago or 5 years ago. You know what I mean? So in the beginning, like you said, it was just blind faith. It was just like, you know, there's no choice. It was just the ego. The ego got me through, you know, a lot of those things. I would rely on my ego. I would rely on the fuck you, we're going to do this shit anyway. Like, we have to do this. And, you know, I would rely on that, you know, and that propelled me, even though it got smacked the fuck up as well. Like, it was still strong enough to get me through, you know, certain levels of resistance and, you know, and able to get me to the next level and so on and so forth. But eventually, even the ego, you know, even the ego is just another form of, like, it's just all wants and desires, right? So, you know, eventually too, that has a ceiling as well. The ego can only get you so far through these levels of resistance. And, you know, it kept happening to me over and over and over and over again. And I never was able to look at it from the viewpoint that I have now and through the viewpoints that we're pushing out there through the trader world right now, because of where you and I are mentally. You know what I mean? Where you and I are mentally, and the people that we're talking to and the places that we're going to find the answers is way more evolved and advanced than, you know, than where I was starting out.
Yeah, and so let's use that as a way to go into where you're at now. Sure. Like, if you used to use your ego basically as a way to like push through things all the time, and even though it was a limiting factor, you used to use that. Like, what would you say you use now as your sort of motivating force? Like, what have you replaced that with? If
acceptance. Acceptance and non-attachment. Acceptance and non-attachment. Two of the pinnacles of any religion in reality that you look at. Like, if anybody wanted to dig in deep to Hinduism or Buddhism or shit, even Christianity, like, well, every single religion is based on, you know, these certain principles. So you could even look at it that way. You could look at it from a how to evolve to a better human being and all these kind of books. And, you know, you could bring it back to anything, but it's those two things: acceptance and non-attachment. So acceptance being, you're where you are for the multitude of decisions that you've made up until this point. This is where you are. This is where you are. Stop fighting it. Stop thinking about it. Stop overthinking where you should be. That was one thing that I always did. Like, this is where you should be, and this is where you are, and they're way different. There's a huge gap between the two. What the fuck are you doing with yourself? So all that expectation that you put on yourself, all that expectation that you bring to the market, it's bullshit. It's self-imposed. When you self-impose anything onto this market or anyone or any situation, you're already writing the future. Like, the shit's already written, you know. You're gonna fuck it up. It's gonna blow up in your face at some point. So the acceptance has been major, and then the non-attachment has been helpful on the day-to-day, where it's like I can be in a trade and I have no worries while I'm in the trade. There's no more crazy stress anymore. You know what I mean? There's no more, like, you know, you're going to the extremes of your emotions, whether it's happiness or whether it's sadness or whether it's excitedness. Most of the time it's excitedness for a lot of traders. For me now, it's just like, all right, this is the trade. Shit, you know, maybe it's not working right now. Let's just stick and move here. Or if it's working out, hey, great, pull some of this off, add some, you know, roll into another trade. It's all about the instinct and like being closer to that instinct. So non-attachment and acceptance has helped me get closer to the instinct. So to most of the traders here, you know exactly what I'm talking about as far as the instinct. The instinct, provided you've been in the game a good amount of time, you know, let's say a couple of years, 3 years, your instinct will be like, hey, add. It'll be like, hey, sell this shit. It'll be like, hey, you know, add some time on your strike because you're losing from time decay. It'll just say shit to you. But you ain't paying attention because of your ego. You're not paying attention because of your attachment, bias, whatever it is, you're not paying attention. I wasn't paying attention for years, for years, literally for years. So any success that I had, it didn't matter. It didn't matter because, number one, I was guided by the wants and desires, right? It was like any success that I had, I didn't even care about it because it wasn't enough. It was never enough. So you just keep going on that whole spiral, which means you're using your whole account for, you're going all in on shit. You're doing wild shit just because you want and you need this shit now and blah, blah, blah. But when you get to a point where you can detach yourself from the result, it doesn't matter anymore. It doesn't matter anymore, and you're not going to take offense to the shit. You're not going to define yourself by the same things that you defined yourself before. You know, so it's a whole different way of looking at the market, and that's where I'm at now.
And I feel like for you, like it used to be when we were like your trading, it used to be this thing of like, it was almost this self-imposed, I know exactly what's going to happen. I'm going to have some huge gains and I'm also going to have some huge losses. And you were just like, that's who I am. You were imposing that as like your identity, right? 100%. And now, correct me if I'm wrong, but you've essentially let go of so much of that. And I think you've accepted the fact that you might have months or a month or whatever, where you don't really have that many gains. But you've also accepted, like, you've let go of this concept of the way things are supposed to be, which has freed you so much. So now,
exactly.
I don't know when the last losing month you had was, but it's I mean, your consistency has been absurd, and you've put up those huge months. And so this is something that Chris was talking about on Thursday. Like, when you let go of this concept of who you are and in projecting your needs and your identity and your story onto things, it actually completely blows open what could be possible, and you can do things that you didn't even really think of it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm talking to you right now as this recently freed of himself kind of person, where I now believe there's certain things. There's tons of businesses you and I had as far as ideas on where to take St. Lucci, on where to grow from a business perspective, but we never did them. We never did them. Why? Because I always thought I needed more money. I always thought I needed, I always thought most people will think they need something first before doing X, Y, and Z. Like, for most traders to move to Puerto Rico right now, the first thing they'll say is, I don't have enough money to do that. I don't have enough money to pay the legal. I don't have enough money to justify, uprooting and going, even though the benefit of paying no fucking capital gains would be the dumbest thing for me to not try to take advantage of, right? So we always will put these ceilings on ourselves. We'll always be like, yeah, I should be doing this. I should be doing this. Your instinct too is going to tell you every day, like, this is what you should be doing, but you're not listening because you think you need X, Y, and Z, or you think you are some type of person, which you really fucking ain't. So once I let that shit go, the idea of being able to have a $10 million a year, it literally now is just a question of turning it on, bro. Like, that's, and it sounds cocky, it sounds super confident and arrogant or whatever, but that's literally all it is for me right now. The concept of doing it and getting it. Whereas before, it was always a figment of my imagination. It was always like, yeah, you could do it, but this is what you need, maybe you need X, Y, and Z account. Maybe I need, whatever in order to be able to get there. There was never a clear path. Now I can literally just sit there and say that, like, all I got to do is turn it on. And then as far as doing, growing other businesses and going into things that I know I needed to 5 years ago, now there's no impediment, you know what I mean? Because I don't have the same attachment that I did before on those particular ideas, right? I mean, even somebody who wanted to, for example, for me, like, I've been wanting to be on stage for a long time. I've been talking about it for a long time, you know, and I've even, you know, you might even tell your friends some of this shit. Oh, one day, you know, you're going to see me, you know, all this kind of bullshit, but you never do this stuff, right? You know, nobody ever does it until finally you get to this place where you're just tired of this shit, you know? So once you burn whoever it is you thought you were, or whoever it is you're trying to be, and burn all concept of this person, that's when all of it just starts, just literally just starts happening for you. And it happens so quickly. It really happens so quickly. You know,
Right.
I have one account where I have over 100 trades. There's not one losing trade in there. There's not one losing trade in there, which is ridiculous. It's fucking ridiculous. There's no, you know, there's no reason.
Including feeler trades and stuff? Like including?
No, everything, literally everything. Wow. You know, and for the master course people, by the way, I'm going to show you the whole account. You guys get the whole damn account. You guys get all my accounts. You get all the data. It doesn't matter, you know? Right. You know, so I've kind of hit that point where all the resistance now, it's not even there. There literally is no resistance. You get to the place where there is no resistance, and it's like the biggest breakout trade of your fucking life. You just got to bet it. Just bet it and go. You know what I mean? And that's where I am right now. Previously, there's always been this thing right here, and it's always been self-imposed, and it's always crushed me. But right. It was the realization that I'm the one crushing myself. I did all that damage to me. I did all of it. I was the reason why it happened. It wasn't the market. It wasn't that my girlfriend left me. It wasn't that, you know, my partner, I had issues with my business partner. You know, it wasn't any of that.
Not this shit. Business partner. Never this business partner, right? The other business partners. Right?
You know, where you go and blame, like, how many of y'all do that shit? You know what I'm talking about. You blame the market. You blame maybe your parents. You know, they didn't raise you right, some shit, or you blame this, you blame that, you blame whoever. But you know, it's that breaking of that resistance, which is self-imposed, that clears the way for whoever you were meant to be and whatever was meant to happen for you.
Right. And I think there's something important that you said there that I want to hone in on that we've talked a little bit about in the past before, but you just said, I got tired of things. Yeah. And that's one of the things that helped you change. Yeah, and definitely. Someone very, very smart told me when I was younger, this is one of the things I remember for a long time, because it resonates so truly, is that people change for one of two reasons, right? And this person was talking about the context of addiction, but you know, let's be honest, we're all talking about patterns of behavior that feed into like addictive tendencies, right? And you either change because you're really smart and you can sit down and actually look forward and look at where your current patterns of behavior are going to take you, and you know what you need to do in order to change that, which is actually very difficult to do, and it's pretty rare. You change, you get tired. You just get so fucking tired. Yeah. And, you know, like to everyone in here, we've seen literally thousands of traders at this point come through, you know, our programs and in the room and just in our community. Yeah. I mean, we have a large amount of data to do this. And I can tell you that rule of thumb that people change because they're smart or because they're tired, that is true. There's three outcomes, basically. You're not going to change. You're going to get exhausted. You're going to get beaten down. You're going to kind of hit that like rock bottom point where you're like, I just fucking can't do this again. Like, I just can't do it again. And you and I have had a lot. You just spoke to it. We've had this experience entrepreneurially. You've had that experience trading wise. You know, I'm not preaching here. I've been through that, you know, cycle, and it sucks. Or you can try and be smart. You can try and find the ways to calm things down, block out the noise, sit down and look at like, what do I actually need to do in order to be successful?
It requires, to do it the intelligent way, it requires a ridiculous amount of patience. You know, it's just like, you know, any exercise program you subscribe to, any diet program that you subscribe to, you know, anything that always comes with a level of resistance from yourself, you know, where you see other people that are able to see some success using the same program. So you think, hey, let me use this thing. I saw him, you know, he looks great right now. Let me go ahead and use this thing. And then you don't see the same results. So you're like, what the fuck, man? What's
Right.
you know, what's really happening here? You know, is it me or is it the program, right? And human beings, we're wired to immediately go for the blame, right? We want to blame other things. We want to blame anything but ourselves, so that we you know what I mean? It's not on us. Once you peel back that layer and get to you, the fact that it was your dumbass that goofed it up in the first place. Maybe maybe you're sneaking in Reese's Pieces and shit. Maybe you're doing this or that or whatever, and then you're telling yourself, hey, it's okay, you know. Meanwhile, this person that you've compared yourself to, and by the way, that's another thing that we do. It's the comparison thing. We want everything, you know, we look at somebody else, we look at something else, and we're like, yeah, you know, I could do that too. I could do that too. And then we try to do it, and you know, you land flat on your face and shit. So once you're able to get back to the layer that is always you, that's when shit will start unfolding for you the right way, you know. But it's a difficult path, of course, to go, because you're forced to accept the fact that it is you. You know, that it is you, that all of this shit is you. You know, anything that you put out there in the world, or you can't put out there in the world, everything, it's all you. So once you get there, then it's like, okay, what is causing me to do this? What is causing me to get in front of myself? What is causing me to pull myself down? And then you start getting to the root cause. Like, okay, who am I? Who do I think I am? Who do I feel like I want to be? And how are these things motivating me, you know, to make the decisions that I'm making, right? So then you get to that place. Then you get to the hardest part ever, which is, what the fuck do you do about it, you know? So in the heat of the moment, when the emotions are flaring, especially when trading is, you're now tasked with making a different decision than you're used to making for the last 3 years, let's say, or for the last 4 years, or for the last 5 years. Some of you guys are habitually losing money. All right, let me say that again. You're habitually losing money. I've been there, right, where I'm habitually losing money. And what does that mean? That means that when a trade comes up, whatever it is, we find a way to lose money in every single trade that we put on, because of our attitude, energy, blah, 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 blah. And you're going to go ahead and blame the market. You're going to blame this. You're going to blame that. You're going to blame whatever the hell it is, except for yourself. So that's how to do it the difficult way. Like, that's difficult. There's not that many people that are going to be able to, that have the mental toughness. Like, Charlie, how many people have you come across that have that level of mental toughness, where, you know, they're able to do that kind of mental work and peel back the layers? And then how long would you say it's taken them to be able to do those things? It's a long time, right? It's a very few people.
Yeah, there's very few people. I mean, there's a reason why there's just giant industries full of people trying to selling people on ways to do this and change their lives and get out of their behaviors, and selling easy solutions to that, right? Exactly. I mean, actually sitting down and doing the work is difficult.
And you guys are going to buy those programs every time. You're going to buy those programs every time. Why? Because you want those things. But then when you get the program and you start to do them, your level of you know, success with that particular program will be vastly different than what is being thrown out there, right? So Charlie and I could whip up some shit right now where we could say, hey, this guy turned 100 grand into $2 million in 2 years. You could do it too, right? And we could go out there, we could sell that shit, and boom, you know, you would go ahead and buy it for $9.99 or $19.99, whatever the fuck it is, right? And we know as the sellers of said product, you know, the likelihood of this happening for you guys is negligible, right? But all this stuff is sold out there in the world. You guys see it every day. Anytime you type in trading, you guys see it on your Instagram, and ads pops up left and right. You know, and that's kind of what it is, right? So we can't guarantee. I can't sit there and tell you that this shit is going to work for you. All we can tell you is this is the process. This is literally the process, and that process, by the way, it's across the board. You know, it doesn't matter if you want to change something. The only way to do it is to look deep inside yourself, you know, and how to peel back those layers. So it's going to solve your trading problems. It's going to solve all kinds of other problems, and that is the only way to do it. The question is do you have the mental strength? It's not like I can come into your life and give you that strength. You know what I'm saying? You got to find whatever it is, you know, that's gonna help you get there.
And that's something that and that's something we're going to talk about with Chris in the master course this time too. In his classes is like, helping you guys, helping traders take some of the pressure off of themselves, because this is something I just see a ton in the room all the time, is people who are just kicking the shit out of themselves. And you know, in order to, like, if you view yourself with a little bit more just like self-compassion, right? If you can widen your perspective out a little bit more, then it gives you so much more room in order to maneuver and change things in your life, because you're not just like holding on so tight to this idea of what you need to be and how you need to do things. So I think that's an important component of this, important point to make. There's also an important point that's like, obviously we push the trading psychology stuff really hard because we know how big of a determining factor it is. If you don't have it, doesn't matter how good you are at other things, like you will not make money. We've seen that firsthand. However, it's also important to make sure that you understand that, like, it's not just all trading psychology, right? You have to go out, you have to have, you know, the Dalai Lama, if you put him in front of TD Ameritrade, is not, you know, think or swim, is not going to make money, right? I don't know, that might be he might be tapped into some shit that he might be, you know, like you have to have practical skill sets, so that when Lucci's talking about listening to his instinct, you know, he's listening to an instinct that has been honed, and that he is, you know, that is being fed through the tape, through, you know, thousands of hours of watching options prices move. Like, you know, so you have to be able to, you have to accrue and put in the work to do that, to build out that skill set too. And I think that's another source of resistance that we see from a lot of traders. They see tape, or they see flow, they see terminology that intimidates them, because this whole industry is built on intimidating people. And there's a voice in the back of their head that maybe they're actually conscious of or not, that says, I can't do that. I need something faster. I need something easier. I'm not smart enough to learn this shit. You know, I'm not at that level. And so they shy away from learning the things that they really do need to learn in order to have a fighting chance.
I mean, as far as strategy is concerned, like, I'll always believe, and it's there's truth in it too as well. Like, tape is the lifeblood of everything else, right? So all data systems and all technical indicators and all, you know, anything, you know, whatever science is that you want to look at when it comes to the market, tape is what feeds all of it, right? So why not just look at it from the source? That's the simplest way I've always looked at justifying tape being the rational way to go about understanding how the markets really work. Because once you understand it from the tape perspective, everything else is pure. You already have the knowledge. You know what I'm saying? You can just see something else and be like, okay, I get this shit. I see how it works, and, you know, and I understand it. You know, whereas if you look at somebody who comes in from a technical aspect, all of a sudden they look at other ways of trading, especially tape, and they're like, what the fuck is that, man? Like, what are you even doing? You know what I mean? And you got to look at things from the truth perspective. You have to look at the things from the root, you know, in order to receive the knowledge on everything. You know what I mean? So you can learn tape, and then literally everything else will just, it'll all make sense to you. Similar to learning, you know, math as a foundation for engineers, for, you know, for some of these higher technical level, you know, professions out there. If you don't have a core in math, you know, a lot of this shit is not going to make sense. It ain't going to make sense. No matter what program might come about that makes it simple, that makes it easy, that makes it point and click and you know, you're just not going to understand it. So
it's why we use that
there's a good amount of people. There's a good amount of resistance, as Charlie was saying, to market knowledge. You know, so that's another big one. I think we've just gone to the psychology side so much because I know at the end of the day, you guys can make strategies out of anything. I know that all of these, I used to hate on a lot of these strategies. I used to hate aggressively on people who did technical analysis. I used to hate aggressively on people who do, you know, Forex. I used to hate aggressively on all this kind of stuff. But my hate was also, it was also like part of my ego kind of thing. Now, like, you can make money in so many different ways. It doesn't even matter, you know, it doesn't even matter. But, you know, to me, the most important part is, can you keep it? And what are you saying to yourself on a day-to-day basis? You know, like what Charlie was saying, where most of you guys beat yourself up if you take a loss. Like, I was doing that for a long time. then if you habitually do these things, of course you're going to have a shitty P&L for 3 or 4 years. You know what I mean? Of course you're going to be trying to plug away at a resistance that you can't get through. Of course those things are going to happen, but it takes you years to figure that shit out. And it's unfortunate. It is unfortunate, but it doesn't have to be that bad. It's kind of where we're going with it. You know, so if you're stuck at this place, which I know most of you guys are, otherwise you wouldn't be here to begin with. You know, it doesn't, you can shave years off this, and you can add longevity to your career as a trader, you know, which is going to all happen for you once you hit that breakthrough kind of point and you bust through that resistance. And now all of a sudden, like, there is no limit. There literally is no limit. And you guys are going to get there. But in order to get there, you got to have these different pieces, you know, and that's, like, I think why we focus so much on psychology, at least for me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's a very good way to put it. And that's why we've done the master course the way that we have. I mean, we started out and it was just, you know, kind of Lucci teaching tape and some option stuff. And then we really started going into trading psychology. And then we brought in, now we've got a lot of different perspectives in. We got Ranchero in there. We got Wall Street Jesus' stuff. We got Chris now talking about, you know, even more into the trading psychology and almost even getting into like the spiritual side of things, you know, meditation. So that's why the master course is this sort of 360 degree, you know, education that we're trying to give you guys. It's basically just trying to arm you with every single tool that you need and then give you the chance to do the work yourself. So we're going to take some questions here. If you guys have questions, I'm sure there's a bunch. Hit them in the chat, Q&A. We are, for everybody who's still here, we're going to throw out a little reward. We've been getting a bunch of questions about, are we going to do a Black Friday, Cyber Monday sale, anything like that? What we are going to do is offer for 5 people who sign up for the master course. The next master course starts December 9th, the next live session. For the next 5 people who sign up between now and Thanksgiving, we're going to throw in an extra 3 free months of the Steam Room. So that's, you know, the Steam Room is $225 a month. That's
crazy.
$675. Is that what that is? Yeah, $675 value plus the $750 discount that we're going to be running for Black Friday and Cyber Monday. So instead of $3,500, it's $2,750. That's a pretty
deal. FYI, when he told me he wanted to do this, my immediate reaction was hell no. And you know, through us engaging with each other, we decided to go ahead and kick that in there. The Steam Room, by the way, is where most of the practice comes in. So we can talk shit. You can talk shit all you want, but unless you in the mix and unless you in there, you know, unless you in the trenches with other folks or myself included, and you're sitting there listening to Jesus every single second, talking about, oh, hey, you know, something big is happening in Disney, and and then when you put the pieces together, so you're getting 4 months total free?
Yeah, 4 months total free, which because you already get a month free for the Steam Room. So
you know, that's 4 months right there, man. Which is nuts. But that means I have to deal with most of you guys for 4 freaking months until you figure out that you have to kick in $225 to keep your subscription going. You know, so think of the impact on me. Think of the impact on me.
Think of the suffering that Lucci is going through with this deal. At that point, usually $225 is the return on investment of $225 to be in that room. We think it's pretty good, but if not, 100%. Then obviously we don't want you to stick with us. So if you guys want in on that, the best way to go is to go to 3ltplaybook.com. That's the number 3ltplaybook.com. That's the 3 Laws of Trading playbook that we created. It's this online experience. It's you know, 15 minutes. A couple cool videos and writing about stuff that we've just talked about in this webinar and some other things. Gives you a really good idea of what Lucci's all about in the course. And then when you get to the end of that, you can sign up for the course and you'll get that deal. So check that out, 3ltplaybook.com. And then
and you're saying that discount, that deal ends when?
That deal ends on Thanksgiving. So you guys, yeah, and we're doing it for 5 people. We're not just doing it for, you know, for all comers. So 5 people. So, okay, let's, enough of that. If you guys have questions on anything, email me, charlie@sanlucci.com. And I'll I'll get Spencer to help you out, and let's take some questions here, man. We got time for a couple. I mean, this is one of my favorite topics, obviously. How much did ayahuasca change you, and would you credit it to the new you? Quote.
Man, yo, everybody wants to go
Everybody wants to talk about psychedelics.
Right? Because they're already, and you can tell, it's like, they're like, damn, should I do this? Like, listen. I was already on said path, you know what I'm saying? Before I even did, ayahuasca. Ayahuasca was just a vehicle. It was just a vehicle, basically. Number one, I didn't even know what the hell it was. I didn't know what the hell it was before I was doing it anyway. I go, and then, you start realizing, obviously, remember, you have all the knowledge already. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have it inside you somewhere. You're already, you know what I'm saying? So it ain't like we telling you shit that you don't fucking know. It's just we're telling you, we're trying to put it into words where it'll trigger you, right? And if we can trigger you one way, this way, or that way, maybe it'll set across, a cascade of action or some kind of a cause and effect situation where you can evolve to your better self kind of situation, right? So ayahuasca happened, and and that was when I kind of took a pause, from the market, and it just kind of further solidified the path that I was already going down, and the need to continue that path, and the knowledge that it was the right path, that it was the right way to go down. However, people looking for, let's say, psychedelics or some kind of one-shot thing or whatever, like, yeah, it's gonna flip the script. It's gonna flip some switches. But guess what? You're gonna come back home. And you know what home is? Home is the same bullshit habits that you've been doing up until now. So what are you going to do? Are you going to come back? Are you going to make those changes? Because guess what? You're going to revert back to you, whoever it was before you did whatever the fuck it is, before whatever chaos happened, and some people have similar experiences to ayahuasca through some chaos happening. Correct, Charlie? Like, some chaotic event happening in their lives, maybe.
Yeah, what they call spiritual emergencies, for sure.
Right. Yeah. So whatever any of those things happen, yeah, okay, you're gonna experience it's almost a shortcut to change and how it's gonna look, But guess what? You're gonna come back home, and all that same bullshit is gonna hit you in the face, just like it was every single day. What are you gonna do about it? You know what I mean? So don't look to it as the thing that's going to change you. Guess what? Like, if you're habitually being a piece of shit right now, you're going to go home to that shit as soon as you're done with it. All right. Now, maybe you're going to go home with a different perspective and everything, and that's going to slowly help make the changes that you need to make. But you still got to do the work. You still got to do the work. I still have to fight every day, just like I did before, just like I did the day before, just like I did the day before, whether or not I did ayahuasca. However, I will say ayahuasca is a shortcut to looking at yourself through the eyes of, out of your body kind of thing. It's a way to access and look at yourself through a completely different perspective, that you weren't allowing yourself to do so because of your ego, because of your attachments, and all that kind of stuff. So I would recommend it for any trader who is stuck, so to speak, just like anybody who's addicted to, painkillers or cigarettes or is depressed or something like that. But don't look at it as something else that you're going to become addicted to. Believe it or not, I'm going to tell you a story right now. There's a chat group that I'm in, where it was 160 people that I was down there with. It was an add-on of a couple of groups, but anyways, there's some people in there that are now literally looking for psychedelic experiences every single week, every single day, and they're just looking to fly down this place. And if they're not in that state of mind, they don't know what to do. You know what I mean? They don't know what to do. They don't know how to deal with themselves. They don't want to be in a regular state of mind, which means you're still running away from shit. You're still looking towards something to help you see the clarity or whatever. So if you're looking for anything external to help you get there, that ain't the move, man. That ain't the move.
Yeah. Lucci and I talk a lot about psychedelics in both of our QTR, Quote the Raven podcasts. I've we've talked about this in other contexts, and I think Lucci sums it up very well. But psychedelics will give you a very good perspective on yourself. Like you said, Lucci, it'll help you see things more clearly and give you a really kind of zoom in quite aggressively on some things that you may have been ignoring or haven't otherwise been able to see, but they're not going to do any of the work for you. Outside of that, you know, the preparation work and the work after that, the integration work is on you. And for Lucci, for you specifically, I mean, because people ask me this too, like, hey, Lucci's so, you know, he's so different than he was a couple years ago. And, you know, people who know you, like the way that you, even the way you talk and like in private and stuff like that. And they're like, do you think you credit that all to ayahuasca? And I'm like, no, I mean, I think ayahuasca helped a lot. I think it sort of crystallized some things and locked some things into place, but you were just doing, like, you laid the groundwork. You did you had put in all that work.
Me and Charlie got fucking tired, man. Like, me and Charlie got tired, for real. We got tired, man. And we were just we're always looking at stuff, you know, from this particular direction. And now, like, instead of always questioning, like, what path should we go? Where should we go? Where should we go? Where should we go? Where should we go? Now it's just clear. Now I don't have to, if I fall to this side, it's like, okay, do the work, get back here. This is the path. You know, and it's that's the place where you are. And there's comfort and confidence in knowing where the fuck you need to go and what you need to do, you know, and the fact that you're just running away from yourself. Before, you'd run away and you don't know where the fuck to get back to, because you don't even know where you're going in the first fucking place. So of course shit's all over the place. Everything is all over the place. I just got tired. I got fucking tired. So the last time that I was able to resurrect myself from the ashes, you know, it was that point where I was like, no more, man, no more of this shit. I'm making the right decisions, you know, spending less, not controlling my wants and desires and all that kind of bullshit. And then all of a sudden, these things just add up. They add up. All the small wins and all the good decisions, they add up. And then boom, before you know it, you know, you do all these things, and that's when shit starts to become clear for you, you know? So whether you do ayahuasca or not, it ain't like you need it. You don't fucking need it, okay?
Right. All right, let's take, we've been going for a bit. Let's do one more here.
Sure.
Let's see. This is a good question. I mean, Chris talked about having a Post-it around his, on his screen that just says "Remember to breathe," which is like very practical, but is also a metaphor for, you know, the breath is obviously a very important part for the intersection of sort of Buddhism and his approach to trading.
Sure.
Do you have, Jonathan's asking, do you have any Post-its around your trading desk that help you mentally, or maybe do you have any other ways to remind yourself of, like, keep yourself anchored in things mentally?
Yeah, I don't really have you know, the Post-it notes. Every time I used to do Post-it notes before and throw them on my computer, like, it would always be something that I would run away from too, because you know, again, there's that ego, there's that want, there's that desire, right? And I've always said my failures before were always because my wants and desires, they always trumped the rationality, the logic. So let's say you put something logical on your screen, or let's even take the example of a stop loss, right? So that's a logical thing, right? To save yourself from yourself. How many of you guys have erased an X out of your stop loss, right? And that's the logical, it's a logical thing to have a stop loss, but you're gonna X out of it. Why? Why did you X out of it? Because of your fucking wants and your whatever the fuck it is, right? So you could have the smartest shit in the world sitting right there in front of you, and it could have solved all your problems when you were in that trade had you have just read it and done something to it. But guess what? You know, I've always shown the propensity to throw those things out the window in the heat of the moment, in the face of my emotion. So I think now the going inside and learning about yourself, learning about your body, how your emotions make you feel. Like, I can immediately feel when I'm over tensed and like my, you know, maybe it's a blood pressure thing or something, but there's a trigger where I know my body is trying to tell me, or my instinct is trying to tell me that this shit ain't right. So as soon as I feel that now, instead of running away from it, which I did for the last fucking decade, instead of running away from it, you run towards it. Now you're like, okay, here, let me get a little hedge, let me shave some off. Now all of a sudden, now I'm starting to think clearly, and then I know what to do. You know what I mean?
Right.
So whenever your emotion, and whenever you start breathing harder, or whenever you start tensing up or whatever, that's the worst time to make those decisions. You're always going to make bad decisions during those times. You're always going to fuck it up, right? And it's feeling it, and it's the experience of knowing what that feels like, and now the experience of actually doing something and making the right decision, during those times. It's almost like a bell, it's just like a bell that goes off, and it's like, okay, it's time to hedge.
And that bell is going off for a lot of people, but they don't listen to it. I think that's something that Ranch is really good at talking about.
Exactly.
That he does,
100%.
that Ranch does, is that when he started out, he was like constantly trying to fit himself into this box of how he thought trading was supposed to, what it was supposed to look like, what he was supposed to do. And then he got to the point where he was like, this kind of trade makes me feel uncomfortable. I don't like not being able to sleep at night because I have certain types of trades on. So what do I need to do for me? Forget how I've seen other people do it. What do I need to do for me so I feel comfortable? And then he started doing those things.
Exactly. And it's at this point too where I'm realizing right now, we're also talking to traders who may listen to this and be like, well, shit, like, how would I even start to implement this? How would I even begin to have an actionable plan to get to this place, right? And it's like, myself, Ranchero, Chris Cody, anybody else that we bring to you as far as a trader who is talking about psychology, remember what happened. Remember, we've been through some shit. We've been through some shit, and that was the motivating factor for us to finally listen to these things. We always had the trigger, we just never did what we were supposed to do, because we never knew like the solution. We never accepted the solution was in the instinct. It was in what your body was trying to tell you. We never accepted it, So it's only until you get to that point. So, to most of the traders here who are like, damn, I want to be there. You know what I'm saying? And they want some actionable way to get there. I don't even know what to say to them, right, Charlie? Because the real answer would be, hey, you're only going to figure it out when you decide to turn it on, right? When life has dealt you enough lessons that you got tired, right? I mean, that is the right answer. It probably is the right answer. Maybe,
or you get smart. Like I think that there are, and this is one of the things that we're going to be doing in the master course this time around, not to sound like a fucking broken record, but is helping you guys develop more practical skill sets that if they fit for you, if they work for you, then you can use them, right? So trading journaling is one thing. Writing definitely helps generate self-awareness. Meditating is one thing that helps a lot. We might talk about psychedelics and the appropriate way to use them in a legal capacity if that's something that you want to do. But Lucci's right. In a lot of ways, there's no substitute for experience.
Amazingly enough, like I've spoken to so many kids that are in college that are trying to trade and people who are first year, second year, and they've been coming to us on Instagram, especially they've been coming to us in droves on Instagram and telling us, yo, your content has helped us look at the market in a different way. And then all of a sudden, their P&L started to reflect the changes and the different way that they were able to look at the market. So, there's definitely some things that you will see earlier. And I think just watching, folks who have the experience and have gone through it continually beat you over the head with this kind of stuff. It eventually kicks in. It eventually kicks in, and you start to feel it in your own trading.
Word. All right. Well, we're not done with Lucci in this series. We'll be back December 5th, I think it is. So that'll be the Thursday before we start the master course. We got the one in between. That one is with Wall Street Jesus, which is next Tuesday, which I'm very excited about to drag him on here and talk about psychology stuff because I love doing that to Jesus.
Nice.
So yeah, guys, 3LTplaybook.com. First 5 people that sign up through that, we're giving an extra 3 months of the Steam Room. Definitely check that out in the master course. And thank you.
And the next one with me and Charlie too, like we're talking tape, I'm pretty sure. So we're going straight to the guts of it.
Which is a whole different way to talk about overcoming resistance, focusing on your process, right? Like
100%.
how are you what are you actually doing? How can I block out the noise and just do what I need to do?
100%, 100%. And the office in Puerto Rico is going to be up. You know, we're going to have a ton of different traders down there in Puerto Rico. So definitely, if you guys are, you know, just in the content space and watching what's happening on Twitter and social media or whatever, Jan 1, you know, when we pack this office of all kinds of traders, you'll see Forex traders in there, you'll see futures traders in there, you'll see options traders in there, equities traders, people who are doing penny stocks. You know, we're putting everybody in this one room, and we're going to see, you know, how the energy transfers to all of us and how we can just kind of grow as traders. So it'll be a fun experiment. I would definitely just hang out on social media and see how that's all shaking.
All right. Thanks for being here, guys. Appreciate it. Appreciate your time. We'll see you soon. Have a good Thanksgiving.